What's beyond the universe? Alright, let's talk about something truly mind-bending. What's beyond the universe? It's one of those questions that makes you stop and just stare into space, literally. But before we even try to answer that, we need to understand where our universe ends, at least from our perspective. We live in a universe that, as far as we can tell, has been expanding for about 13.8 billion years. That expansion means light from distant galaxies has been traveling toward us for billions of years, but there's a limit to how far back we can see. That limit is what we call the observable universe, a sphere centered around us, about 93 billion light-years across. But here's where it gets tricky. This doesn't mean the universe itself is only 93 billion light-years wide. It just means that's as far as light has had time to reach us since the Big Bang. There could be way more beyond that horizon, maybe infinitely more. So, what happens when we reach that edge? Is there some kind of cosmic wall? A void? A boundary we can break through? Not exactly. The observable universe isn't a physical boundary, it's just a limit set by light and time. If we could somehow travel faster than light, which, according to our current physics, is impossible, we might see more of the universe, but there's no reason to believe the structure suddenly changes past that horizon. The universe doesn't just end at 93 billion light-years, it keeps going. But here's something even weirder. The expansion of the universe means that some galaxies are actually moving away from us faster than the speed of light. That means their light will never, ever reach us, no matter how long we wait. In a way, those galaxies are permanently cut off from our reality, locked beyond an invisible barrier we can never cross. And if that's true for galaxies, imagine what else could be out there: whole clusters of galaxies, cosmic structures beyond anything we can comprehend, existing in a part of the universe we will never, ever see. Now, some scientists propose that if you could somehow step beyond the observable universe, hypothetically, you wouldn't find a wall or an edge, but just more universe. More galaxies, more space, stretching on and on. It's like being in the middle of an ocean. The horizon is just where your vision ends, not where the ocean stops. But that leads to an even bigger question: what if the universe isn't just big, but infinite? And if it is, does that mean there are infinite versions of, well, everything? Hold on, because this is where things start getting really weird. What if the universe isn't just big, but actually infinite? That idea might sound simple at first, but the deeper you think about it, the stranger it becomes. If the universe is infinite, that means space never ends. No matter how far you travel, no matter how many billions or trillions of light years you go, there's always more universe ahead of you. But here's where things get really weird. In an infinite universe, anything that can happen must happen somewhere eventually. Think about it like this. The number of ways you can arrange particles in a given space is enormous, but it's still finite. If the universe is truly infinite, then somewhere out there, purely by chance, those particles must eventually repeat in exactly the same arrangement. Which means there could be another Earth. Another you, living a life almost identical to yours, maybe just slightly different in some small way. Maybe they wore a different shirt today. Maybe they ordered coffee instead of tea this morning. Maybe they made one different decision years ago, leading to a completely different life. It gets even crazier. If the universe is infinite, then not only do these near duplicates exist, but every possible variation of you must exist somewhere. There could be versions of you that lived in ancient Rome, versions that became astronauts, artists, or never even existed at all. In an infinite universe, everything that can happen does happen somewhere. But hold on. Just because something is mathematically possible doesn't mean it's true. The problem is we have no way of proving whether the universe is infinite or just incredibly, unimaginably large. Every bit of data we have so far suggests the universe could go on forever, but we can't see forever. We can't travel to some distant point and check. The observable universe is all we have access to, and beyond that, it could be infinite, or it could eventually curve back on itself like a giant cosmic loop. And that's another possibility. What if the universe isn't infinite in a straight line, but instead wraps around itself? If space is curved, then traveling far enough in one direction could bring you right back to where you started, like walking around the surface of a sphere. That would mean the universe is finite but has no edges, kind of like how a video game world can seem endless because it loops back on itself. So, which is it? Infinite or looping? Or something else entirely? Well, that's the problem. Our current understanding of physics doesn't give us a clear answer. But if space really does go on forever, it raises an even bigger question. If the universe is infinite, is it the only one? Or are there other universes beyond our own, making up something even larger? Alright, let's take this even further. If our universe is either infinitely large or just one part of something bigger, what if it's not alone? What if there are other universes out there, completely separate from ours? This is where we dive into one of the most fascinating and mind-boggling ideas in modern physics, the multiverse theory. At first, the idea of multiple universes might sound like pure science fiction. But actually, it's a very real possibility, and there are a few different ways scientists think a multiverse could exist. One version comes straight from cosmic inflation, the idea that, right after the Big Bang, space expanded at an unimaginable speed. Some physicists believe that this process didn't just create our universe, but an infinite number of universes, all forming in their own separate bubbles. Each of these bubble universes could have different laws of physics, different fundamental constants, maybe even different numbers of dimensions. Some might be filled with galaxies and stars like ours, while others could be so bizarre that they defy our understanding entirely. Then there's the quantum multiverse, which comes from quantum mechanics, the strange, unpredictable world of tiny particles. In quantum physics, particles don't just exist in one place. They exist in many possible states at once until they're observed. Some interpretations of this, like the many worlds interpretation, suggest that every time a quantum event happens, the universe splits. That means every decision, every possibility, every tiny event that could go one way or another actually does in a different universe. And then there's an even weirder idea, the mathematical multiverse. Some scientists believe that if the laws of physics allow a certain type of universe to exist, then somewhere, somehow, it must exist. That would mean not just infinite universes like ours, but every possible universe with every possible variation of physics, matter, and energy. Some of these universes might be completely empty. Some might have physics so different that atoms couldn't form. Others might have stars, planets, and even life. But here's the thing: if the multiverse exists, we may never be able to prove it. By definition, other universes would be separate from our own, with no way to communicate between them. Some theories suggest there could be rare collisions between universes, leaving behind detectable imprints, but so far, we've found no concrete evidence. That doesn't mean the multiverse isn't real, it just means we don't know how to test for it yet. And if that's not mind-blowing enough, some scientists take it even further. They suggest that if there are infinite universes, then there could be copies of us exactly like us living out the same lives or slightly different ones in parallel realities. But if that's the case, what created all of these universes? Where did the multiverse itself come from? And is there an ultimate boundary to everything? The possibility of it being infinite, and even the idea that there could be multiple universes. But now comes the biggest question of all: does everything, absolutely everything, have a final boundary? Is there a true edge to existence? At first, it seems like there has to be an answer. Either reality goes on forever, or at some point, it just stops. But what does it even mean for something to stop? If you reached the absolute edge of existence, what would be on the other side? Nothing. But what is nothing? Is it just empty space? Or is it the complete absence of space itself? This is where physics meets philosophy, and neither side has a clear answer. If we imagine that the universe or the multiverse has an edge, then we have to ask, what's beyond it? If the answer is nothing, then how do we define that? If space and time don't exist beyond a certain point, then in what sense can we even say that beyond exists at all? One possibility is that space itself is finite but unbounded. This means that instead of stretching on forever, space could curve back on itself, like the surface of a sphere but in 4 dimensions instead of 3. If that's true, then traveling in one direction long enough might eventually bring you right back to where you started. In this model, there is no edge because space wraps around itself in a way that has no true outside. But what if existence does have an edge? What if there really is a final boundary, past which nothing, no space, no time, no matter exists? Some theories suggest that our universe, or even the multiverse, could be part of a much larger structure, something beyond our ability to comprehend. Maybe our entire reality is just a bubble in a much larger meta-reality. There's also the idea that our universe could be a simulation. If that's the case, then the edge of existence might not be a physical boundary, but rather a limit in the way the simulation is programmed. Maybe past a certain point, the simulation just doesn't generate new information. It's like a video game where the developers only created a certain amount of landscape go far enough, and you just hit an invisible wall. And then there's the question of time. If space has a limit, does time have one too? Did time begin at the Big Bang? Will it end at some point? Or does it stretch infinitely into the past and future? No matter how far we push our understanding, we keep running into the same paradox. If reality has an edge, what's beyond it? And if it doesn't, how can something be truly infinite? Maybe we're simply not equipped to understand these questions. Or maybe, someday, we'll discover that reality is far stranger than anything we've ever imagined. So, after everything we've explored, the vastness of the universe, the possibility of infinite space, the idea of multiple universes, and the question of an ultimate boundary, one question remains: what does it all mean for us? It's easy to feel insignificant when thinking about the sheer scale of everything. If the universe is infinite, or if there are countless other universes, then what are we? Just tiny, fleeting beings on a small planet in an ordinary galaxy floating in an unimaginable expanse. Does anything we do even matter? But here's another way to look at it. The fact that we can ask these questions, that we can think about infinity, multiverses, and the nature of existence means that we are, in some way, deeply connected to the universe itself. We are made of the same elements that formed in the hearts of stars billions of years ago. The atoms in our bodies were forged in cosmic explosions that happened long before Earth even existed. We are not separate from the universe, we are the universe, experiencing itself in human form. And that's incredible. Think about it. Out of all the possible realities, out of all the infinite ways the universe could have unfolded, you exist. Right now. On this tiny planet, at this exact moment in time. Maybe there are infinite versions of you in other universes, or maybe this is the only reality you will ever experience. But either way, the fact that you're here, thinking, wondering, questioning, that's something extraordinary. So maybe the size of the universe isn't something that should make us feel small. Maybe it should remind us of how rare and precious it is to be alive, to be conscious, to explore, to create, to love. Whether we are just one universe among many or part of an infinite, ever-expanding cosmos, the fact remains, this moment, this experience is yours. And that's something no amount of infinity can take away. So, what do you think? Is the universe infinite? Are we part of a multiverse? Or is there a final edge to existence that we just haven't found yet? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of the cosmos. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep wondering.